M13 stands have always praised this gun and claimed it to be the meta assault rifle in every season. While that may not be true in previous seasons, is this the season the M13 finally breaks out and becomes the best assault rifle in Warzone? Well, let's find out. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing the M13 to the Cooper Carbine. I've been playing with the M13 in solos recently and it actually feels pretty good. I feel like I'm melting kids left and right and the fast fire rate is just so satisfying. The MW guns overall are just so satisfying to use. I don't know what it is about them. But sometimes the guns can feel good in game and might not have the best stats on paper. So I wanted to compare the M13 with another similar rifle, the Cooper Carbine. The Cooper seems to be on the top of the rifle meta right now. I could have also compared it with the Automaton, but I feel like the Cooper is a better matchup with the M13 than the Automaton. This is because of the similar damage between the Cooper and the M13. But anyways, if you're new, make sure to leave a sub on the channel as I compare a lot of Warzone guns here, and leave a comment on which guns you want me to compare next. Before we get into the stats, let's look at the loadout for both guns. Here's the loadout for the M13, which is the meta loadout, and here is the loadout for the Cooper Carbine. Now let's move on to some stats. First, let's look at the fire rate, as both guns have an incredibly fast fire rate, but which is faster? Let's look at the M13 first. It has a fire rate of 896 rounds per minute, which is solid, but the Cooper Carbine takes this as it has a fire rate of 909 rounds per minute. So as you can see, that's very close. That's only a difference of 13 bullets, but that's 1 point to the Cooper Carbine. Next, let's look at the ADS. Starting off with the M13, we have an ADS of 429 milliseconds with the VLK scope. Comparing that to the Cooper Carbine, we have an ADS time of 351 milliseconds with either the 3 to 6x scope or the 2.5 scope, which are primarily used for long range. That's another point of the Cooper, and let's look at the bullet velocity for both rifles next. First, let's start off with the Cooper Carbine. It has a bullet velocity of 1138 meters per second with the 9mm rounds, but if you switch that with the 0.3 carbon rounds, then the velocity will jump to 1565 meters per second. Although the velocity will jump by 400 meters per second by using the 0.3 carbon rounds, the fire rate will also decrease to 750 rounds per minute from 909 rounds per minute. So I recommend using the 9mm rounds over the 0.3 rounds if you want that fast fire rate. Now on the other hand, we have the M13 with the bullet velocity of 1530 meters per second. This is on par with the likes of the XM4 and the AK-47, which I just compared in last week's video. Both are meta rifles, and as you can see, the M13's bullet velocity competes with both. That's 1 point to the M13. Now let's move on to the TTK, which is one of the most important stats in Warzone. As you can see, from 0 to 32 meters, the Cooper has a better TTK. Cooper has a TTK of 726 milliseconds, while the M13 comes in at 804 milliseconds. After 32 meters, the Cooper falls off, so from 33 to 47 meters, the Cooper has a TTK of 924 milliseconds, while the M13 has a TTK of 804 milliseconds still. Then, after the 48 meters, the M13 finally drops off and has a TTK of 938 milliseconds, while the Cooper stays at 924 milliseconds. I know all these numbers can be a little confusing, so let me break it down to which has a better TTK for long range. The Cooper drops off way before the M13 drops off, which leaves the medium range to the M13 to dominate. Along with that, after 48 meters, when the M13 finally drops off, the TTK for both is very close, even though the Cooper kills just a tiny bit faster. So considering the medium range belongs to the M13, I would say the round goes to the M13. This is because there's a bigger difference in the medium range than there is at long range, so I give that round to the M13. Now let's look at the bullets to kill, which is pretty similar to the TTK chart. From 0 to 32 meters, the Cooper kills in 12 bullets, and the M13 kills in 13. After 32 meters, the Cooper drops off again and it kills in 15, while the M13 kills in 13 bullets still. Then the M13 finally drops off at 48 meters as it kills in 15 bullets, just like the Cooper. I'm only talking about chest shots, by the way, and there's no headshots included in any of these stats. Just to make it fair and balanced for both guns, I only look at chest shots. This is the same situation as the TTK, so that's another point to the M13. Since we know the Cooper has a lower bullet velocity than the M13 with the 9mm rounds, it also drops a lot faster than the M13 looking at this chart. This was to be expected as the M13 has a better bullet velocity, but nonetheless, That's another point to the M13. Lastly, let's look at the recoil for both guns. So on the left side is the Cooper Carbine and on the right side is the M13. And as you can see, the Cooper actually has a better recoil than the M13 does. The M13 recoil tends to go a lot further and all the way to the right as well, while the Cooper on the other hand just stays straight and doesn't really go that high. I think this is mostly due to the tight grip equipped on the Cooper build, and the M13 and the Modern Warfare guns don't really have something like that. And with the Modern Warfare guns, you can only equip 5 attachments, while the Vanguard guns have 10 attachments and perks. But overall, this round goes to the Cooper, as it's a lot easier to control the Cooper recoil in my opinion than the M13 recoil. Although in game, both don't really have that much recoil, especially when I'm playing, but I'm a PC player and I can't really tell you about controllers. So if you're not really that great at controlling recoil, then the Cooper is the one for you. It's pretty straightforward, just pull it down a little. But anyways, that's another point to the Cooper Carbine. Having looked at the recoil, there's a clear winner in this battle, the M13, as it has won in more categories than the Cooper Carbine. Now that doesn't mean the Cooper is a bad rifle by any means. This just speaks to how good the M13 is right now in Warzone, and I think it definitely needs to be at the top of the long range meta. The Cooper is already up there, but I feel like the M13 isn't talked about enough, which is mostly because of past seasons where people hyped it up for no reason. Now by no means is this the best rifle in Warzone, but I think it's definitely a top 5 or top 10 AR in Warzone right now. If you haven't tried it, make sure to give it a go and you will be surprised. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the matchup video and got some useful information, and if you did, make sure to leave a like as it helps me out a lot. Along with that, leave a comment on which guns you want me to compare next. Lastly, if you want to see 2 meta ARs go head to head, check out this video on the screen. You might be shocked to find out which one took the crown as the best AR in Warzone, so check it out and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.